Can you see how many are online?
Yeah, so now it is connecting.
Oh.
It's 3 people.
I think you need to sit right close next to each other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Grand total of 5.
Oh, okay.
5 are joined.
I feel like these parents should get a nice glass of champagne or something.
Something like that.
Can we all just sit like close then?
Good idea.
I just feel like we should move it to a classroom, but then some people might come back.
Yeah. No, we'll keep it here. We'll keep.
There are some online. You'll be
Yeah. So, do we start?
I think we
Yeah,
do
I think we start.
And we kind of try to keep it short. So
Good evening, dear parents. We are very glad to have you this evening. Yes, maybe we can start with the dance.
He's not there. We got it.
merci.
Okay. Okay. So we are here this evening, particularly to have a discussion on the grade 5 who will be transitioning from elementary school up to the middle school in the secondary level. And it's a very important phase for them, so much such that it's important that we have this conversation with the parents, you the parents first. Because in as much as it is important for them, it is also important for you, the parents. It can be challenging for them, transitioning can be challenging for them, but we believe that with the help of you, the parents, and as much as they will be getting help from the school, that will be made far much easier for them during that process. So welcome to this conversation. There will be questions at the end. I'll open the conversation. Then Mr. Daniel is also going to come in to talk about IB curriculum and what is expected in the middle school. Then Ms. Alana is going to help us navigate the student life in middle school. And then she will connect with the ASAS and athletics. Then I will conclude on communication. So once again, thank you for your time. And for those of you, the parents who are joining us online, you are very welcome. We will get time for your questions as well. Thank you. So, transitioning. Maybe the biggest question is, what is it? And what are some of the possible challenges we expect to see? Or what are some of the possible challenges our pupils, our students are likely to face during their time of moving from elementary to middle school? Okay. And the most notable challenges which are possibly going to be experienced, we'll start with the social changes, which most of them will experience. Number one, you notice that they have new peer groups and friendships, which will form, and old ones may change. Now, they are getting into a pool of different students, some in middle school, some in high school, and they'll be mingling with a different pool of students, and that can make them change certain friendship dynamics The second one is increased social comparisons and peer pressure. Now, they will be experiencing different social experiences, and peer pressure is very possible because of the type of experience they are going to have. Sometimes they will be mixing with the big boys in the high school, and that can influence them in different ways. Desire for independency while needing parental support. So one of the things you parents can also take note of is the children who will be coming from your homes, they may start seeking for some level of independence. But that does not mean that they will not need support. They will still need your support. There will be a mixture of that. So kindly take note of that. Navigating new social norms and expectations. So usually in the middle school, there are also different social norms which they will experience, and they will have different expectations in their friend groups, expectations in their classrooms, and expectations from the teachers. So these are some of the social changes which they will experience. So how then can you parents support them? Number one, encourage open conversations about friendships and social challenges. Transition can be challenging. Sometimes it's possible they may experience some levels of isolations because they'll be in new environments. So have open conversations about them. What does it mean to have a friend? What sort of friends do they need to have? Number two, teach and model health communication and conflict resolution. So in the moment that they experience conflict with their friends, how do they navigate that? What's the best way of them resolving conflict? If they can have that conversation with you parents, as much as they will be having those conversations with their teachers, their counselors, it will be much lighter for them. Help your child develop confidence in making new friends. One of the challenges in middle school is finding a healthy friend group. So if you can have a conversation with them in how to make new friends, because we believe that each family has certain beliefs and what is important to them and what their child should do when they are with their friends. So that's a very important conversation to have. Monitor social media and online interaction, ensure they are safe and positive. So I'll come back to this point, especially on social media, in the heat of now that we experience cyberbullying. Support their involvement in extracurricular activities to build social connections. Again, we'll come back to that point. The other change which will be noticed is the emotional adjustments. Because of the transition, you may notice increased academic expectations and possible stress or anxiety. Especially in the first quarter of the year, most of the children who've just transitioned from elementary to secondary are most likely to have some levels of stress. Stress because there's a lot of subjects they'll be taking, and these subjects will be handled by different teachers. And for them to easily associate or assimilate that may be quite challenging or very stressful for them. And they may be very anxious to go to some classrooms. They may get lost, not knowing which classroom they are supposed to go to, and that can create a lot of anxiety. Okay? Greater emotional ups and downs due to development changes. Now, one thing we also know is this is a time when adolescence kicks in, teenagehood, and that comes with its own confusion. Okay? And it brings on board different emotions in our students. Others will find that the moods changes and the like, and that's something which we should take into consideration and pay attention to. Fear of failure or not fitting in. The other day, I think, last time before we closed, we had a student in grade 6 who was crying because he got a 5. According to him, that was not his achievement. He needed a 7 or 8 in a subject. So failure can really affect students sometimes, or fitting in the middle school can have its emotional challenges. So how do we help them navigate that? Also growing the need for independence while still seeking parental assurance. So as much as they will have experienced some levels of independence in what they do by themselves, they will still need parents' guidance and assurance. How do parents support them? Normalize their feelings. Let them know it's okay to feel nervous or overwhelmed. Emotions are part of our being. Being sad, being angry, we all need to have emotions. It's very okay to have emotions. Let them know that it's okay to have all sorts of emotions. What may not be okay is allowing those emotions to get the best of them. So we need to have that conversation with them. For those of you who may have a boy child especially, boys may experience challenges to express their emotions. So having a conversation with them, what does it mean for a boy to experience emotions? What does it mean for a boy to express their emotions? May be a very important conversation to them. And then pointing them in the right direction in case they are overwhelmed by emotions. Who can support them? Establish a consistent routine at home to create stability. Now, routines are very important. We know that even in a system at school, when there is a well-established routine, it helps people to feel the calmness or the sense of stability. And that's the same. And if you can help them have that at home, that would be very, very helpful. Encourage problem-solving skills rather than fixing problem for them. Now, it may be very tempting that when you notice those challenges, you may move in and wanting to fix some of those problems for them. What may be more helpful for them is if you help them problem solve. Develop those skills where they can learn to solve their own problems. Because they are going to need those skills all the way to high school. Promote a health mindset by praising effort rather than just a result. I think Mr. Daniel will talk more about that. There is a point he likes raising in terms of sometimes it's not just the grade which you appreciate, but the effort the students put in. If you can help them, make them know that that's very important as well. Keep communication open, ask about their day, and listen without judgment. And sometimes, like me and Ms. Estelle, yesterday we had a conversation where we were talking about trusted adults. And you parents can be their trusted adults. If they have that sense of safety with you, they can talk to you openly, share their concerns with you openly, and you guide them in the right direction, that will be very, very helpful. Physical changes which we also notice. Like I said, puberty kicks in at this stage, and that comes with changes in the mood, changes in self-image, and self-confidence. This is a time when girls or boys start spending a good amount of time on the mirror because they want to look at themselves and judge themselves. And sometimes they can be too critical of themselves. That which can affect their self-confidence. And if that's not properly handled, it can affect their classroom performance. So let's take note of that. More responsibility in managing personal hygiene and self-care. Again, because of puberty kicking in, another issue as parents we need to take note of is at this stage, it's very possible that our children may start having strange body odor. And that's something which is very common at puberty level. Okay? They will have some smells which you may need to have an open conversation with. They will have those conversations sometimes in school, but it very much helps if this conversation starts at home. So how do they practice self-hygiene? And how do they practice self-care? Do they wake up early to take a shower, or do they shower when they come? We'll talk about sports. Do they come with clothes to change, or how do they handle that? Okay? Increased energy demand and need for proper nutrition and sleep. So one true thing is, these our boys and girls, they are very energetic at this stage. Extremely energetic. You may think that they are tired because they are at school the whole day. They will come back home very energetic and wanting to watch more TV. So you may need to balance their nutrition and their time for sleep, because that will be very critical for their mental well-being. Greater independence in organizing their belonging and schedules. Now, one of the issues we struggle with, especially when the new term begins, is the new grade 6 tend to forget their books, their school much-needed equipment for classroom work. So, especially in the first quarter of school, please be their buddy who can remind them to say, hey, have you carried this? What do you need for today? What have you forgotten? So how can we help? Talk openly about body changes and measure them that these are normal. It's very normal for the body to change at puberty level. They shouldn't feel bad about themselves. Everyone passes through this phase. So if they know that, it really helps them. Encourage regular exercises and balanced diet to support them. I think this is, especially on exercises, is one aspect I love about ISD. It's very active. So if you can encourage them, that would be good. But also, most importantly, if they can keep up with the much needed hygiene which it demands. Ensure they get enough sleep. I've already talked about that. I know that we live in the era of gadgets now, so let's be mindful that that doesn't affect their sleep schedule. Teach them time management skills to handle their increased responsibility. So middle school can be complicated, especially moving from one classroom to the other. I want to believe in the elementary they spend most of their time in one classroom, which will be totally different in the secondary. They will be moving up and down. They have to climb stairs at every block. So time management may be very critical for them. And this is a very much needed conversation to have, and you can help them with that. Provide age-appropriate guidance on personal hygiene and self-care. I think we've already talked about that. Academic expectations. Mr. Daniel will talk more about that, but just to highlight some of the things. More subjects, I've already said that, and each subject probably has its own teacher. Homework compared to primary. So they will have homework again. Increased need for organization and time management is a reputation. High expectation for self-advocacy and independence learning. Now, self-advocacy is very important. I think we talk a lot about this in secondary because we know that a student who is able to self-advocate, most likely they will get what they need, rather than those who shut down to themselves, even when they have something they need. So part of the conversation I would really encourage you parents to have is encourage them to self-advocate. Self-advocate to teachers, to their peers, and even to you as parents. That will be very, very important. Possible struggles with focus, motivation, and academic pressure. Again, I want to repeat, in the first quarter, most of the new grade 6 will find it difficult to stay in class for 80 minutes. It's 80 minutes, Mr. General, right? One subject or one block. is elementary is kind of more play-based. Middle school may be different. So focus for them may be a challenge, especially when the first quarter starts. Motivation and academic pressure, because they have different homeworks from different subjects with due dates, that can create some troubles for them. So how do we support them? Create a quiet and organized study space at home, especially in this era where there is a lot of gadgets. The noise which can be affecting them is their own gadgets or their own games. So if we can learn, we can teach them to know what time to play and what time to focus on school, that would be very helpful. Help them develop a daily homework routine without micromanaging them. You may need a bit of micromanaging at the start, but steadily let them start having their own space where they can learn to do their own work. You just need to coach and monitor them. Teach them to use a planner or a digital calendar for assignments. We have a number of students who say, I find it easy if I have something to remind me. And I believe you know your students better than we do, especially at home, so that can be helpful. Encourage self-advocacy. Again, I've already said that. Praise effort and perseverance rather than just grades. Again, we've said that. Digital safety and digital well-being. So they will have more exposure to social media and online platforms. So one thing I want to make known is they will be doing all their work on their Chromebooks. Probably, I think they're already doing that in elementary. Is it so? Yeah. But the exposure, because of the social influence they may have, it's very possible that they will join different social media platforms. It could be Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. I want to encourage you parents that have very serious conversation with them around that and what's the best way to use those platforms, especially now when we are navigating issues of cyberbullying. Because one of the things which they are going to complain to you is how they may be possibly being bullied online themselves. So if all the parents, we can participate in having this conversation with them and monitoring the social handles our children are having, that would be very, very helpful for them to use these platforms in a more wise way. Possible experience with cyberbullying or negative peer interaction. And again, I want to repeat, this is a very high possibility. And I know that the school is doing everything possible to stop it, but we also are very cognizant that some of these things happen at home or away from the school environment, which is very hard to control. So if we can have a conversation on the right way of using social media, will be very helpful. Curiosity about relationships, privacy, and online behavior. Relationships. For boys, it's very possible this is the time they'll start having some feelings towards girls. And I know that one of the biggest challenges sometimes parents have is to have those conversations with our children. So, and even children find it hard to talk to parents about this. But it helps if parents open the door and start having this conversation. It makes children feel much safer. Privacy. It's very possible when maybe this time their bedroom doors are very open. Soon they'll start closing their doors and they wouldn't want you to enter their bedroom. Maybe they've already started. So how do we navigate that? How do we respect that? And then online behavior, like I've said. How do we help them? Let's set clear expectations for screen time and online behavior. If we can safely have a conversation on what time are they supposed to be on screen and what time are they not supposed to be on screen. That would be very helpful. And what sort of behavior do they exhibit online? If you hear, for example, that your child has been bullied, how do you handle that? Or if you hear that your child has been the one who's been cyberbullying another child, what's the best way of handling that? But most importantly, how do you work hand in hand with the school to ensure that that doesn't continue or it doesn't repeat itself? That would be very, very helpful. Teach them about online safety, including how to handle cyberbullying. Now, online safety, one of the things I want to really talk about is what we call digital footprint, which most of our young people don't seem to pay attention to. They will say all sorts of things or do all sorts of things online and may be blinded by the fact that they can press delete and it doesn't appear in their face and may think that it is gone. But digital footprint is something which stays online for forever. So giving them vivid examples, for example, big people right now who are struggling in their professional life because of something they did when they were teenagers can be very helpful. So we need to have that open conversation. And like I said, how do they handle cyberbullying? Monitor their digital activity while respecting their growing need for privacy. One way you can do that is if, for example, your child doesn't have a phone or a tablet already, and you are thinking of giving them, make it known to them that I will take these steps for safety purposes. So I may be checking on your online activity to make sure that you are doing the right thing, but also to make sure that you are safe. However, I will make sure that I respect your privacy. That helps in case tomorrow you come back to say, hey, what's happening when you are online? Can I check your activity? Because then they won't give you pressure to say, it's my privacy. Encourage face-to-face social interactions over excessive screen use. Screen addiction can also affect their classroom performance because what it does is when the teacher is busy teaching, a student will be busy playing a game or watching something else online. So to avoid that, we need to promote social interactions. Gadgets have become our isolation machines. And this is very common even in our homes where everyone may be on the gadget and no one is talking to each other. So if we can promote social interactions where we put away all gadgets, that would be very helpful. So I'll now invite Mr. Denlo for our next phase of interactions. If you have any questions, I ask that kindly keep them. We'll come back to them at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Good evening, parents. I'm Mr. Carroll. I'm the MYP coordinator here at ISD, and I'm going to talk about two things mainly. The IB MYP program, first and foremost, and then I will go through the schedule that we have in the secondary school. So, in a nutshell, when it comes to the IB MYP program, all IB programs at the center look to develop the IB learner profile traits in all students. There's a similarity we have with the PYP and the diploma program in grade 11 and 12. So that is where we start at the center, and that is what we're looking to develop in our students. That's the core element of all IB programs. We also have the approaches to learning skills, which are skills that we explicitly teach in the MYP as well as the PYP program. And these are self-management skills, critical thinking skills, social skills, etc., etc. And when it comes to our teaching is centered on inquiry, teaching of key concepts, and we do put the learning in context, be it local or global, because we know students learn material best when it's placed in context. What's important to note is that early in the school year, next year, I will have a session that's dedicated to just the introduction of the MYP, and I will focus on these elements. So at the start of the school year, if you do have a chance, I really encourage you to attend these sessions where we take a deep dive into these elements of the MYP program. Another similarity with the PYP program, as I just mentioned, is the global context. You probably recognize these as the PYP transdisciplinary themes, and in the MYP, they simply just take on a new name. In fact, we use the PYP transdisciplinary themes when we're explaining these, so the students know exactly what it is. So for example, who we are in the PYP becomes identities and relationships. We now call them global context as opposed to transdisciplinary themes. How we organize ourselves becomes globalization and sustainability, etc., etc. Because we know the learning happens best when we place it in some sort of local or global context. So that's another similarity with the PYP program. Again, at the start of the school year, I will have a special session on this, where we'll take a deep dive. So please feel free to attend that once we do have that in the new year. Okay, the subjects that we offer here at ISD are as follows. We've got design, physical and health education, the arts, we've got music, theatre, film, and it has a visual arts, music, film and theatre. We've got INS, individual and societies. We've got the sciences, language and literature, French and English, and we've got language acquisition, we've got English, French, and Spanish there. What's interesting to note is that when it comes to assessment alone, that's probably going to be one of the biggest differences from the PYP coming into the MYP, and that in itself takes about an hour and a half to dive into. So one of the most important sessions to attend at the start of the school year will be the introduction to assessment, because that's going to be quite different to what's going on in the PYP program. So that is the subjects in a nutshell here at ISD, and then I will now delve into our timetable. So this is what our timetable looks like. We have a 9-day cycle. We start at 8:30 in the morning, where we take attendance and registration for about 10 minutes there. Then we have a passing time of 5 minutes, so students can move on to the next class. And then we have 4 classes or 4 blocks per day. So students will start off with block A, which could be maths class, block B could be design, C, etc., etc. And then we rotate through. So we go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then we have block X, and that's the end of the cycle, and we start again. Now, what is block X? Now, in block X, block X is broken up into 2 parts. The first half of block X is where we have our enrichment courses. And these are classes that students can explore based on their passions. For example, it could be the chess club. It could be roller skating. It could be, but most importantly, we do offer a home languages program within that enrichment course there. So if your child does have a home language that's not English or French, we encourage you to sign up your students for that, because we do consider mother tongue maintenance and development very important at ISD. So that is a course that's also offered in that enrichment block. And then after that, the second half, students will have advisory, and this is where students go through social and emotional lessons with their advisors in that class. And then the cycle continues, A, B, C, D, all the way to H. Now, on particular days, I believe if you look closely there, on day, is it 7? Yes, what will happen is that grades 9 and 10 will have enrichment there for block X, and then grade 6 through 8 will have a community meeting, and they will meet up in here and talk about various topics, things that are going on in the world and in the grade level as well. And then on day 9, that flips. For block X on day 9, grades 6 through 8 will have enrichment, and then 9 and 10 will have their own community meeting. So That is the 9-day cycle that we go through in the secondary school. It's the same from grade 6 all the way through grade 12. Okay? So expectations. Now, as Mr. Paul mentioned, students will be with different classmates or different peers in different classes. That's going to be a big change for them. They are now going to have different teachers for their various subjects. So please encourage your child to advocate for themselves, because this is going to be something new. It's going to be a bit tricky for them in the beginning, but please encourage them to speak up whenever they have questions, concerns, if they can't find a place. We're definitely out there to help them navigate through this realm of middle school, especially at the start of the school year. We have Open 30 sessions, and these are sessions that teachers offer, where they give students extra help outside of normal class time. So each teacher has a designated Open 30 session per week where students can come in and seek the necessary help from each teacher based on whatever subject area they need help in. And then homework, yes, it's a big new thing that students will experience. In grade 6, we say roughly 15 minutes per subject per day. So if you've got about 4 classes there, so we say roughly about an hour per day should be spent on homework. The tools that we use in the secondary school, we've got Chromebook access. We'll be using ManageBack, which is mainly used for summative assessments. And formative assessments or day-to-day things, we use Google Classroom for that. Again, I will talk more about what a summative and a formative is in that assessment session at the start of the school year. So please come out to that. We do use Gmail for communication as well. And then we do have a mobile phone policy where students are not allowed to use the mobile phone between 8:30 and 3:30 every single day. So please talk to them about that at home if they do have mobile devices, because at ISD we have a new policy in place where we're trying to help students make good decisions around the use of mobile phones. So these are the expectations for the secondary school, and I think I'm going to call up Ms. Alana Ba now to talk about student life.
Hello everybody. I'm Alana Ba, Assistant Principal for Student Life and Leadership. Your children next year will know me as Ms. Ba. So for student life, it does look significantly different in secondary, right? So we have, I'm sure you've heard these terms, secondary school, middle school, high school. We have MYP, DP, right? So MYP, DP is very much so, is this on? Yeah, it is. Okay. MYP and DP is very much so academic curriculum, and middle school and high school are very important parts of the secondary school that is more developmental, more social emotional, right? Our middle school goes from grade 6 to 8. So your children will be entering into our middle school. Where middle school is important is in student life, right? We don't necessarily, grades 6 to 8 are going through similar problems, so we are addressing them together. They're going to be spending more time together, whereas when we transition into high school, they might have a different set of problems and concerns. So if you hear middle school, that's what that means. So what does student life look like? We have, and we try to have these very thriving grade level communities from grade 6 to 12. We have one team lead who is in charge of those thriving grade level communities, and every student in secondary is divided into advisories. So I think in elementary you have homeroom teachers, right? So your child will not have a homeroom teacher, they will have one advisor. So in the schedule, you saw that they started with JAG attendance. They will start with their advisor teacher, and that they will share that advisor with about 11 to 12 other students. They start the day, but they won't necessarily see their advisor every single day except for those initial 10 minutes, if that makes sense. So the role of the advisor is a little bit different than the homeroom teacher. It's kind of the be-all, end-all of elementary. Our advisor is really focused on, with those 12 students, creating that feeling of sense and belonging. They're going to be doing different initiatives of service learning. They're going to be doing different initiatives around social emotional learning. But the team lead is going to be someone who is playing a big role when it comes to behavior management, when it comes to grade level activities, when it comes to service trip. So that's how it looks a little bit different from elementary school. Some more expectations around student life is as your children are maturing, we are giving them slowly but surely more and more freedom. So what that looks like is some overnight trips. We have service trips coming up, grade level retreats, right? They have campus access after hours. There are different social events that happen after hours as well that is organized by our student leadership teams. And we have a very vibrant organization of student leaders. We hope that your children will run for office. They can attend the student directors' advisory councils and advocate for improvements to student life and to ISD. And of course, a big part of how we run student life is setting very clear behavior expectations. We are a school that operates with restorative practices. We really believe that children learn through making mistakes, right? And once we harvest those mistakes, that's where they are growing as citizens, as students, as individuals. Mr. Carriel talked a little bit about our screen use policy. We came up with that last year in a task force. We are really happy with what it's looking like on campus. We're trying to focus on students connecting rather than being on their devices, so no devices during lunch, during breaks even. And of course, we have a new dress code policy that we put into place this year. On campus, it's still quite liberal, as I'm sure you see, but that was important for us in our philosophy, which we'll go into a little bit more next year. But once we go off campus, we do put in place a little bit more. So that is a little bit for student life. Now, the athletics and activities director could not join us this evening, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about after-school activities, ASAs. It's going to be drastically different in secondary school. So instead of you signing up for your children will be signing up for after-school activities on School Buddies, and if they sign up, they have to attend, and attendance is taken. We have 3 different sports seasons: football, volleyball, basketball, from 4 until 5:30. We have a no-cut policy, meaning students will not be taken off of teams based on ability. Anyone who tries out will have a spot on the team. Something that I know our new athletics department is working on is having much more local tournaments and partnering with local schools. So all weekend you'll see sports tournaments happening with local schools here. And also, of course, we are part of WASL, which is the West Africa International Sports League, I think, is what that stands for. And it's schools that are in that are in Nigeria, are in Ghana, are in Cote d'Ivoire, lots of other places. And they might come here to participate in tournaments, or our sports teams will go there to participate in tournaments. So once again, more freedom, more overnight trips, more opportunities. What else? Yes, many new sports. It's not just football, volleyball, basketball, right? I hope that you were able to see our theater program and the show that we put on. We are very proud of that. So if they want to be involved in theater, music, or our dance team, but it's not just that. We have arts and crafts, robotics, different academic support after school. There are also more international trips. For example, GISS is a service learning summit in which student leaders are planning and presenting to each other all across the continent, which they just went on last week. It was fantastic. We have Model United Nations, debate. ISTA is a theater trip, oftentimes that they go on. And of course, there are other language and cultural trips and a lot of music. So that is a little bit of our ASA program. Here are some photos. I think the top left photo is an example of a middle school multiple sports tournament that we won completely, did we? Yes, we did. Yes. And that was a huge highlight of the year. I see our basketball team, the boys won 3 times in a row. our swim whistle that we just had. So we have a very vibrant campus, and the students, even when we have a dance or have a social, they're constantly participating in sports. It's a big part of our campus here. So please encourage your kids to be doing that as well. And I think, yeah, here's an example of a schedule of exactly what it would look like during one term, the different ASAs that are possible. And I will give it over to Paul and wait for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ba. So we are almost concluding very soon. One of the things which I also want to talk about is communication between parents and teachers, because that is something which is very important in the learning journey of your children. So because there will be more teachers, point of contact also now differs from the elementary school. First point of contact will be the advisor, which Ms. Alana has talked about, for general concerns and questions. Before the end of the year, I'm sure there will be communication to you parents to let you know some of the advisors who will be taking charge of your children in grade 6. So you will know them. And once the school opens in the next academic year, you will know which advisor will be in charge of your child. Also, there is myself, Mr. Paul, but I'm the middle school counselor, in case I didn't say that. Now is the right time to say that. However, the counseling department, I'm not the only one. There are other about 3 more colleagues I share the counseling department with. So even if your child may not have a contact with me, they are very much free to meet my other female counselors who are present in the counseling suite. And Miss Estelle is our secondary school principal. She's here today. In case you don't know her, I'll ask her to briefly stand. Yeah, thank you very much. So that's our secondary school principal. I don't know if I'm the right person to say, but she may not be here next year. In the next academic year, she may be moving on. However, she's playing a very vital role in this transition, and she will meet your children to encourage them moving on to middle school. So if you have any questions to her before she moves on, please feel free to see her. Okay, but just bear in mind, you can talk to all the subject teachers. If your child is struggling in mathematics, reach out to their mathematics teacher and have a conversation with them. What's coming up? On 12th of March, myself, Miss Paula, I think you know Miss Paula, most of you? Yes. So myself and Miss Paula will have a transition meeting with your children. Just to prepare them, just as much as we are preparing you to prepare them. Part of that meeting will be a Q&A. We will allow them to ask questions, because what we are going to do is we are going to invite some of their friends who are already in middle school so that they can share some of the possible experiences. And on the same day, a certain group of grade 5s will now then formally visit the middle school in secondary. So be prepared on that particular day. They may come and tell you very beautiful stories about middle school. And then on the 13th and 14th March, the second and third group of grade 5s will as well visit middle school. So how is this going to happen? They will have real experience of what it means to be in middle school. They will go to classrooms in grade 6 and experience a teacher teach in grade 6. If they will have questions, they will ask. They will have buddies in their grade 6 so that they feel safe. So this will be a real-time experience for them in grade 6 and in middle school in particular, just to help them prepare for that. And
Can I just say something about that?
yes.
It's actually the 12th, 13th and 14th, and I know you've been to the sessions about the exhibition. So by then they'll be in the exhibition groups, so they won't visit with their homeroom teacher. About 16 people will be based in Matt's class, 16 in Susanna's and 16 in Alison's. And so that when they do those visits, they'll go in those two groups. So it's the 12th, 13th and 14th.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So in May, the current grade 6, whom we have in middle school, will write letters of advice to your children in grade 5. What should they look forward to? What are some of the things they should pay attention to in the life? This is all part of preparing them adequately so that they are not caught by any surprise. And then last but not the least, in May, June, towards the end of May and June, Miss Paula will have positive transition lessons with them to middle school. Something again to help them prepare adequately. So conclusively, what do we then take home in all what has been said? Number one, be patient and understanding. Middle school time. Middle school is a time of big changes. So let's take note of that. Let's be patient and very understanding. Patient to our learners and patient to our teachers as well as they develop those relationships. Open and keep an open line of communication. Let them know they can talk to you, and that's very important. That's something which they can really fall back on. Encourage balance, help them manage school, friendships, and personal time boundaries. They will need your help for sure, no doubt about that, and that's very important. Work with teachers and school counselors if challenges arise. And collaboration is something which is going to help not only your child thrive, but even you as a parent thrive in the way of supporting your children. So let's collaborate. Some of the social emotional challenges can be home-based, but you know for sure that they have the capacity of impacting their classroom performance. Please do let us know so that together we can help the child navigate those challenges, and then they will be safe. Focus on what you know to be true in the present moment. It's a stage for curiosity, and they may ask you questions which sometimes you may not have answers to. It's very possible. Just be realistic with them and point them in the right direction. By staying involved and supportive, you can help your child navigate the transition with confidence and resilience. We have this meeting today with the hope that we will work together and you will stay very much involved in their middle life journey in the next academic year. Thank you very much for your time. Now is the time for questions. If you have any questions based on all what we've said, please feel free, including our colleagues who are online. Let us know. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So you spoke a lot about, in the beginning, about
Yes.
preparing them for use of screens and cyberbullying, etc. And actually, so at home I feel like I can restrict it quite well.
Okay.
But I feel like where I don't have control is the usage of the Chromebook and what my son does with this during school time especially.
Okay.
So I was wondering more, what is the school doing, and maybe also what tips can you give to parents on how to speak about it, especially since for me it's really an issue that is more associated to school than home life.
So maybe before Mr. Stell saying, the start point of that conversation is what you've already been doing, because you already have guidelines set in place. And just say these guidelines will be extended to the use of what you have in the middle school.
So we had a meeting today, and we're planning that within the next 2 weeks, Henry Abbey, who is our Director of Technology, is going to be running a parent workshop that will probably be online at this kind of time. We'll maybe think of next Tuesday, but it will be soon, to give you tips for focusing really on home, especially the issues we've had with grade 5 recently, right? Where we only had 2 of the main issues happened in school time. I'm just saying a lot of them were on school computers and children who knew each other, but at home. They all happened like 8 o'clock at night. So we're going to be running a session just to give tips on things like keeping your devices outside, knowing your children's passwords. So we're aiming to have that session within the next 2 weeks. So just to help a little bit with that.
So a lot of our education happens in Block X around that. At the beginning of the year, we held, for the first time this year, tech talks with our IT director. Specifically, we had 2 or 3 with the grade 6s coming in because we expected it to, I think that's one of the biggest transitions in middle school, right? So they're going to have their Chromebook all the time. Some parents might give a phone, even though there's a wait until 8 movement that's going on that I highly recommend waiting until 8th grade. But the technology use for your kids is the biggest transition, right? So we as a school, we are educating them a lot on digital citizenship. We are, in grade 6, they won't have access to instant messaging, GChat, for example, so we're taking that away. Yes, they find other message. Yes, they go on to Gmail and send random emails to each other, right? But our teachers are working on making sure that a lot of their class time is still happening in person, not necessarily on screen. So we're asking for teachers to be a little bit mixed with that, right? At home, and I'm sure Henry will talk about this, but there are amazing resources online through Common Sense Media that you can have these family media agreements that you can work with together to help set boundaries. I have students in my office often that are struggling with addiction to screens, right? In the same way that we as adults are, right? So Common Sense Media is a really great resource. They have family media agreements that you can work on, setting those rules of keeping your phone, keeping your computer out of the room, for example. I'm rambling now about a lot of this, but yes, we're thinking about this very often, right? And we are trying to do a lot to support them through it. As we said, through restorative practices, when he talked about cyberbullying, right? Some of that is happening outside of school and we don't know about it, right? Some of it is happening outside of school and it's not between a student in our school and, or between students in our school, right? So it's good for you to take a look at it. If anything comes to our table, we will react, right? And we will educate and discipline the students through it, absolutely. Do you want to add anything, Sam?
One tip that would help when it comes to social media, I know it's not directly related to the screens. One thing that my wife did years ago is we sometimes shouldn't be afraid of a soft introduction into these things because they're going to experience it anyway. And what she did was, with our oldest child, she actually, when she had an Instagram account, it was linked to her own account, so that she was able to see what she was posting. Whilst others struggled with, how they handle themselves online, she was exposed to it earlier, but in a soft sort of manner that she was able. So that could help as well. It's not a thing set in stone.
I do think as well, I think it's almost like an agreement that grade 5 parents have. It is illegal for children. There we go. They're not allowed to have it. In Australia are making that 50. And I just think in some schools there are groups of parents where they say, you're going to do that. Because then it's not, oh, my friend has it. They don't have it. They shouldn't have it. I think they're not ready for it. And so I think that's some of the things that Henry, like this tech director, his children they're much older. They have no tech after 8. No one can charge a device in their bedroom. So there's no excuse, So these are things that we'll be talking about. And I think, we've seen this with the children. It's a lot of responsibility, and I think they're not ready for it. The big thing that might help next year is this year's grade 5s have brought their
Thank you. And yes,
Well, I just wanted to say, I think it's very interesting, because, but I personally had to delete my Instagram because I was getting too addicted to it. So yeah, but you've all been double figure. But but another question regarding mother tongue languages. You're saying that I think that it's group X, they get to have a choice. How do you, which languages do you offer, and yeah.
We have the trans-languaging models where
Use that for the people online, I think.
we have a trans-languaging model where the mother tongue coordinator basically oversees the class in English, and then students use resources in their mother tongue languages but with the tutor online. So there is a fee associated with that, but we've seen that when it comes to mother tongue maintenance and development, it's extremely important, especially for those students who may end up going back to their home countries and need the mother tongue to sort of matriculate back into university. We also, research shows the advantages of maintaining mother tongue as well. So that's the model that we currently have at ISD. And in 9 and 10, we actually, on top of the enrichment, we have it actually embedded in the timetable as a class. So currently we have, I believe we have 2 in grade 9 and 2 in grade 10. So it's actually offered there so that they can possibly explore those languages in the diploma program as well in 11 and 12.
So Daniel, right now then every child has 45 minutes of French every day in grade 5. So in grade 6 they can do any language you say, or?
No, it's this is strictly for the enrichment course.
Okay, so what is the actual language that is second?
What we do have in grade 6 through grade 10 is language and literature, English and French. So those are sort of seen as the child's strongest languages. And then we also have language acquisition, which is the extra language they can pick up, and that's, it could be English, it could be French or Spanish.
They continue with taking French?
Yes.
Well,
Well, no.
we have a balanced, the timetable.
Yes.
The timetable works in a way to have a rotation and equal weighting for all the subjects. So it means that on the rotation of 9 days, you will have every single subjects for 80 minutes 3 times. Yeah.
And so just going back to languages then, if you chose Spanish, can you be a beginner Spanish speaker or a first language Spanish speaker?
Very good question, thank you, Francis. Spanish is language acquisition, so it means that it shouldn't be your first language. If you are in need of doing Spanish language and literature, strong academic language, you would go to the Spanish home language enrichment, where you would receive the lesson from the teacher in English, but you'll be connected, as Daryl was saying. Be connected to a tutor and reading in Spanish and interacting in Spanish with your tutor.
Can you explain it also? The school day ends at 3:30, and then if they do ASA, that's 4 o'clock or 5:30.
It depends. It depends what ASA they take. They could finish at 4. No, they won't finish at 4 because 3:30, getting ready. They might finish at probably by 5 they'll finish. Sometimes 5 or 5:30, and then by 6 they need to be off campus.
And from 3:30 to 4, they can be on campus alone.
Well, what is really cool is that now the library is open from 3:30 to 6, let's say 5:30 actually. So we want you to, if possible, encourage your children when they don't have an ASA straight away to go study in the library. Yes, otherwise they can be unsupervised at school, but the library is an option.
And then 2 more questions. So since they will have full work now, maybe, how many ASAs do you recommend? And then a second, we spoke about support time interest. When does that happen?
Okay, excellent question. There is a lot of freedom at school in terms of how many ASAs you can choose, and in that regard, as is really a passion school, and sportsy students really thrive. Some of them want to be doing sports virtually every day. But this is one area where parents can really be helpful from the word go from grade 6 as students to balance out their ESAs. The same as balance out your enrichment. Take a sport, by all means. Also take academic support. Because in enrichment you will have mathematics support, English support, science support. In this X block, you could choose something academic as well. You could choose something creative. So all of that should come also within the ESAs. Encourage them to vary. And I would say not every day.
But during ASA, it's also academic support?
That's actually new. We have open ASAs to support students with their academics and their homeworks. So it's just encourage maybe look at the ESAs, even if they're signing on their own, even if they're signing enrichment on their own, have these discussions at the dinner table so that they can make the right choices for them. Otherwise, I have some students who would take enrichment. They want basketball, football, and touch rugby, which is theoretically okay, but they're not taking advantage of the well-rounded offer that we're trying to provide.
Just also for one question, so will you also guide us and the kids on what they should do? Some might need more help than the others might not. So I'm sure my son will want to do sports every day. That's not feasible, especially with 30, you can have their home and then people working out. Then you recommend
All of these discussions are really happening in the first part of grade 6 in advisory. This is when we heavily focus on transition and all of these questions come up. We also have an early meetings, a grade level meeting, where grade 6 parents will come together with the grade level team lead and ask their specific questions, be able also to connect with other grade 6 parents, which is practical not only for play dates, which by the way you won't be able to organize anymore because they will organize their own play dates now. But it's nice to be a community as a grade and to have a space to exchange. Anything you'd like to add?
It's a very good question you mentioned about balancing ESAs because as we always say, experience is the best teacher. We're also parents as well. I've had 3 students here at ISD, and with my oldest daughter, I learned the hard way. She came in and took every ASA under the sun, and academics did suffer. So I made it a point to make sure that with the younger ones, I monitor the amount of ASAs that they took, because it does have an impact on academics if it's not watched.
I do think quite a lot of children find that you have an elementary and a secondary. Because you're getting your English education from, a lot of them actually sit and do the homework in that activity learning session. You might have a lot of people do find work there, and that's quite useful.
Really encourage your children to use the library, which they do. It's a very popular space, but now we are a little bit stricter about no playing in the library, no games in the library. It's a space of quiet and study. I feel it's really helpful for them to take advantage of all of these small opportunities to learn for 30 minutes, get something done,
Thank you. Any more questions? Are there questions online?
I'm not sure that we can check that today. Can we have?
Yeah, I'm checking now. I will tell you soon. No, not yet.
So take the microphone, can you read that out? Sorry, there aren't any around. I thought it was a question.
Yes.
Do we have any?
No,
No,
not yet.
I thought you said question.
So, dear parents, thank you very much for your time, for your attendance, and for all those very important questions. We believe this was very necessary, very important. But this is not the end of our interactions. All these people you are seeing here, including myself, myself, including Francis, could be your point of contact to get clarification which you need at any time. Don't hesitate and don't wait until next year. Be curious. Mr. Denlo does call for more intensive IB conversations. I would strongly encourage that you attend those conversations, because the more you understand the curriculum, the more it will be easier for you to support your child. If you don't understand, then you have a limitation in supporting them. So with that said, thank you very much for your time. We'll end here for this evening.